learning Pirke. Okay, good. I continue in the middle consent. Continue. Yeah. Good. All right. We'll dedicate this the class to the Shliach Benjamin ben Menachem, right? His father was Menachem. Mendel. Okay, we're talking about Pirke Avot. We talked a little bit about Pirke Avot the last time. Pirke Avot is very sort of a strange type of Mishnayot. Usually Mishnayot are laws. They're laws, and usually they're pretty cold laws also. Very exact. There are arguments about the laws, but the laws are not very emotional. There's nothing really sort of personality involved. You know, there's a person who has a terrible personality, a person has a wonderful personality, a person that's a very big Torah genius, and a person that's a total dunce, but nevertheless they have to do the laws that are set in the Mishnayot. So it's not really that much personality based. It's more based on what to do, actually to do. And once in a while, a little bit on what to say. There's certain things you have to say, the Seder Pesach and the blessings that you have to make, and fasts and time. But mostly it's just action, it's just cold action. So there's two sort of exceptions to this. Number one is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which is going to be Lag Bomer, he was among the Tanaim. All the Mishnayot were written by the Tanaim. The Tanaim, these were great rabbis that were a little bit before the destruction of the temple and about 200, 300 years after the destruction of the temple. We're talking about the second temple, destruction of the second temple. These were people called the Tanaim. And the most, in a way, the most unusual, outstanding of all of them, the one that put godliness into the commandments, that was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was, so to speak, the connector between the giver of the Torah, God, and the Torah. Even though all the others were holy men, and everything they said were the words of God, but Rabbi Shimon put real godliness into the Torah. And there's a beautiful mimer we're learning in the morning that if anybody, by the way, is interested, at 8:30 in the morning, every morning we learn, 8:15, we're learning Chassidut. I can send you the link if you want to. I also have Skype. I also have Zoom. I took the lesson from you. So you can come in and we learned but it's 8:30, 8:15 in the morning. I guess it's for you, it's 7:15, huh? So the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he put the godliness into the Torah. The other sort of exception of this law of the coldness and stark reality, just action of what the Mishnayot are Pirke Avot. Pirke Avot are laws about attitude, about our attitude. It says, Mili de Chassiduta. These are words to make a person into more of a chassid, to serve God with more excitement, with more genuineness, and especially interpersonal relationships. Interpersonal relationships. That how to deal with your fellow man, how to think about your fellow man. Except not just in monetary matters or in matters of damages, where the Mishnayot are more between us and God. And Pirke Avot deals a lot with loving others, honoring others, judging others properly, having patience with others, etc. In other words, personality, character traits. So it's always a question, these ideas of character traits, especially how the Pirke Avot begins. It begins with, first of all, the saying that comes from the Talmud, Kol Yisrael Yesh Lahem Chelek Olam Haba. All the Jewish people have a place in the world to come. But it starts off with this whole list of the order that the Torah was passed down from generation to generation. The Torah was passed down from generation to generation. It starts off that Moses got the Torah on Mount Sinai and he gave it to Yeshua. And Yeshua gave it to the Zkanim, they gave it to the Nevi'im, the prophets, and the prophets gave it to the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, to the men of the Great Assembly. So we talked about that a little bit in the past, but this, it should be in the beginning. That should be, if it's just talking about the order that the Mishnah, that the teachings of the Torah were given, that Moses got it, he gave it to Yoshua, to Joshua, and Joshua, he gave it to the elders, and the elders, they gave it to the prophets. So, and the prophets, they gave it to the people of the men of the Great Assembly, and then eventually came down to us. So this verifies the Torah that we're learning now. That the Torah that we're learning now is not something that somebody made. It started with Moses, and Moses didn't give it to just anybody, just left it out. Only to one person, Yeshua. He really understood it properly, and he gave it over to people that really were devoted to it, and etc. So it came down to us, and that everything is very, very exact. So this should be in the beginning. This should be right in the beginning of all the Mishnayot. I don't know if you know, there's what's called 6 orders of Mishnayot. Starts off, first of all, with agricultural laws, and then after that, the laws of the holidays. And then it comes to the laws of damages. Damages is like right in the middle. So you would think that these laws, and that's where Pirke Avot is. Pirke Avot is in the laws of damages. So a person would think that, first of all, it doesn't seem to make any sense. First of all, the Pirke Avot begins with the order of the Torah was given down from generation to generation. That should be right in the beginning to tell us that we're learning the same Torah that Moses got on Sinai. Don't think that these laws are just things that were made up with people. These were given down from generation to generation directly from God. So that should be right in the beginning so that we get that clear. And also the whole idea of having good character traits, that also should be in the beginning. First of all, work on your personality, do basic things that everybody in the world does, be a good person, and then after that, start to be a good Jew. After you're a good person, you're honest, and you're caring about others, and you have patience for others, and you're honest, and you're hardworking, and you're not lazy, and then after that, those are the proper attitudes that every human being should have, every human being in the world. And then after that, learn the Mishnah. That's when they should start off with learning the Mishnah. So this should be right in the beginning. Why, in fact, is it not in the beginning? Why is it put like right in the middle of these 6 orders of the Mishnah? Why are they put in them? This is one of the reasons is to let us know that the purpose of learning the Torah, one of the purposes, is to refine us. Of course, in the end, the Torah hasn't got any purpose, just like God hasn't got any purpose. Why does God exist? He exists for a purpose. God is pure existence. The Torah is the will and the wisdom of God. So it's not really here for any purpose. It's just pure truth. In the same way, to a certain degree, the Jews aren't here for any purpose, because the Jews are just pure godliness. Every Jew is son of God. Every Jew. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem. But God did put a purpose in the world, and the purpose is that God wants to have himself revealed in this world, like in the Holy Temple. That's what we're learning about now in the weekly Torah portion, about how the high priest went into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. What happened on Yom Kippur? The service of Yom Kippur. We learned this. So that really should be in these ideas, of the giving of the Torah, the whole order of the giving, and improving your personality, should be in the beginning of the Mishnayot. Why is it in the middle? To tell us that a person can't really truly perfect his personality and his character without the Torah. Without the Torah. Without the Torah, in the end, it's always going to be that a person will be selfish and he'll always be thinking about himself. Now, it's not to say that there's not people that don't have good character traits, and it's not to say that there are people that learn the Torah that do automatically have good character traits. But if a person does learn the Torah, it automatically fixes up his personality, automatically fixes up his character. 10%, maybe 15%. And the rest, the other 90% or 85%, you have to do by yourself. But it does fix you up to a certain degree. In other words, you have something to grab onto, a handle to grab onto. And that's the godliness of the Torah. So that's what Pirke Avot comes to teach us. These are rabbis who have learned the Torah and they have internalized the good ideas and the good character traits that can only be acquired through learning the Torah. So that's what's called Pirke Avot. It's called the chapters of the fathers. They're called the fathers because they gave birth to these good ideas and these good character improvements. And they also gave birth to the future generations. And of course, if a person doesn't have these good character traits, in the end, the Torah is not going to be kept. You know, people will see this is what the Torah brings. Who wants to do the Torah if it brings people to be like, you know, nasty like everybody else? I don't need the Torah. I can do that on my own, to be nasty and to be, to feel superior or whatever. So that's the idea of the Torah. Is the Torah is supposed to come and do two opposite things to us. It is supposed to, on one hand, make us humble because we're close to God. We're supposed to, when we realize everything we have is from God. But on the other hand, it's supposed to give us power. Hashem oz lamo yitain. The Torah gives us power because we know what's right and we know what's wrong. We can stand up for what's right and what's wrong because the Talmud tells us clearly what is right and what's wrong, what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. But here we have Pirke Avot, and the idea of Pirke Avot, the chapters of the fathers, is to teach us what is right and wrong as far as our character goes. So let's take a small example from, we said we'll learn something in chapter 1. So let's learn something very interesting from chapter 1. We have a saying over here of Yoshua ben Prachia. It's the 6th, any of you have a book, it's the 6th Mishnah in the first chapter. And it says, Yehoshua ben Parachia and Nitai Arbeli, Kiblu Mehem, received from them there was another, what's called the Zugot, partners. There was Yosef ben Yochanan and, Yosef ben Yochanan and who else? And Yosef ben, one second. Yosef ben Yezer. Yosef ben Yezer, Yosef ben Yochanan. And they said certain things, and Yoshua ben Parachia, he received from them. Yoshua ben Parachia and Nitai Arbeli. All these people, these were people before the temple was destroyed. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he was the one that was, when the temple was destroyed, and he made Yavne, and from him came all the pupils, Rabbi Akiva, and etc. So these were before the temple was destroyed. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia, he said like this, Aseh lecha Rav, you should make for yourself a rabbi. Kana lecha chaver, you should purchase, you should buy for you a friend. The Havidan call Adam lekaf zechut, and judge every man to, what do you want to say, the kaf zechut, to the side of merit. The side of merit. But somebody yells at you, somebody gets mad, say, oh, the person probably had a hard day today. Right? Right? You see somebody that it looks like he's taking money from the charity boxes in the shul, say he's probably the sextant, right? He's probably the shamash in the shul, and he's taking it for the sake of the shul. You have to judge everyone the kav zechut, to the side of merit. All right, so 3 things. Number 1 is make for you a rav, aseh lecha rav, kana lecha chaver, buy a friend. In other words, it's a very important thing to have someone who is your friend. It says even if you have to spend a lot of money to travel or to do him favors, whatever, but a genuine friend is very hard to find. It's a thing that's worthwhile to spend money on. And Avidan call Adam lekaf zechut, and you should judge everyone to the side of merit. Merit. Okay. The Rebbe asked a question about these 3 things. First of all, aseh lecha rav doesn't seem to make so much sense. What does it mean, make for yourself a rav? I mean, if you don't know the law, so of course you're going to find somebody that's going to ask you, and if you do know the law, then you don't need anybody. So what does it mean, aseh lecha rav? What does it mean you should make for yourself a rav? Right? Or you should make for yourself a rabbi. Also, what does it mean you should buy yourself a friend? You buy yourself a friend. I mean, if you buy him, then he's doing it for money. He's not doing it for your true friendship, isn't he? And the third one is judge everyone in a good way. Well, this is already another commandment we have in another place, which says, Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. It's in this week's Torah portion in Kedoshim. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, now we have another question the Rebbe asked, and that is, if you look a little bit further in chapter number 1, you'll see that in law number law number 16, we have a law from Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel, he came a little bit later, and he said, "Aseh lecha rav, make for yourself a rabbi." Same thing. Histalik min asafek, and do away with all doubt. You should do away with all doubt. So what do you have to say it again for? Here we have Rabbi Yeshua ben Parchia. Yeshua ben Parchia, he already said, make for yourself a Rav. Why do we have to have Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? What does he have to say? Make for yourself a, same thing, right? It says Rabbi Gamliel, not Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Gamliel said that you should make for yourself a Rav. Exactly the same thing he said. So what is exactly the difference? Okay, so the Rebbe explains like this. This is talking about 3 different types of people, right? How are you supposed to deal with 3 different types of people? First of all, you should know that you have to deal with people. You can't just lock yourself away and sit and learn Torah all the time and think that you're really holy, because probably you're fooling yourself. So there's 3 different, generally speaking, there's 3 different types of people. There's people who are superior to you. They know more. They have more experience. They're wiser. Then there's people who are equal to you, on your same level, basically. And then there's people that are worse than you. These are people that are sinners, that did bad things. So how are you supposed to deal with these 3 types of people? It says the ones that are smarter than you and that they're greater than you, you're supposed to make them come close to you, and you're supposed to come close to them. Make them to be your Rav. Make them to be your Rav. And the Rebbe even stressed something more, that even if they're not greater than you, make them greater than you. In other words, trust the person, ask him for advice, and you'll see that God's wisdom will come through this other person, especially because the Babisher Rebbe told us all to do it. There was a few years where the Rebbe said, Aseh lecha Rav. Everybody has to have a Rav. They have to have somebody they go to ask questions with. That's number 1. Number 2, a lot of times a person thinks that he knows something, but he really doesn't know. And he doesn't know that he doesn't know. And by means of making himself a Rav and going and asking questions all the time to a Rav, or just talking things over, sometimes suddenly he realizes the things he thought he was certain about, maybe becomes not so certain. And that's the idea, that a person should never really trust himself. A person shouldn't really trust himself 100% until his final day in the world. And of course, nobody knows when that final day is. So a person should never really trust himself. He should always have someone that he goes and takes advice from, that he goes and he consults with. This is a very, very important and an essential thing in Judaism, that you should not be alone. The only people that were alone, it says in the last week's Torah portion about the Matzorah. It was a terrible punishment. They made him go alone. They couldn't talk to anybody. Very bad thing. So first of all, someone superior to him, make him your Rav. He should be your rabbi. You should come close to him, ask him questions. Somebody who is your equal, what should you do with somebody who's equal? Make him into your friend. It's very important that people should have a friend, someone that you can talk to on your own level. And even if it means that you're going to have to put out money, then nevertheless you should do it. Even if it means you're going to have to put a lot of effort into it, then you should do it also. Because a lot of people, it says water, like a water that's like a mirror. With the way you look into the water, that looks back at you. The same thing, other friends, the leiv chavero, the person's heart is like yours. The way you look at another person and the love that you give him, is that will bring out also love, friendship. But where does this really come out? This idea of giving to another person, making another person, showing another person that you care about them, and that makes a relationship. With a rabbi, certainly he's already superior to, but you bring him that you want to receive from him. A friend that you want to be friendly, you want to be equal. But what about a person who's worse than you? What about a person who you don't want to have anything to do with? You want to keep away from him, right? Nothing. So, like we learned about, I think we learned when we were learning about the Haggadah of Pesach, that's why the wise son in the four sons of the night of Passover, the wise son is first, and the evil son is number two. Because why is the evil son number two? He should be the last one. He says no, because the evil son is number two, so that the wise son will have some effect on him. And also the wise son is the only one that can have an effect on him. So here's the same thing we're talking about. Dan kol adam lekav zechut. You should merit, you should judge everyone for the side of merit. In other words, try to find something good about everybody and try to excuse the other people's faults. Try to excuse the other people's faults. Try to excuse. We see that a big expert at that was the Lubavitcher Rebbe. People went in front of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that didn't keep Shabbat. There were people that were against Torah, against commandments. They said bad things about other Jews, about religious Jews. They wrote in newspapers. There were journalists. They wrote terrible things. Communists, leftists, and the Rebbe accepted everybody with. And the Rebbe, there were a lot of religious Jews that really didn't like that. They said these people, you have to just, get rid of them. They have to be shown clearly where are the laws that they're wrong. And they think that they're okay. You have to tell them clearly that they're wrong. And the Rebbe said that they didn't. You tell a person that he's wrong, he'll just think that you're wrong. He's living his life. You have to try to show another person that there's some good factor in him, something good inside of him. And it could be that the religious people are the only ones that can really see it. That's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be people that feel happy that we're created, and therefore we can feel happy that another person is created, that everybody has some good redeeming factor. So it says, judge everyone lekav zechut. Now, why did Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia say this? So it says in the Talmud, it's in a redacted edition, in Sanhedrin, that Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia, he was the one that kicked JC, Yashkele, that kicked him out. It said the Yashkele was, according to the thing, he was a mamzer. Anyway, he was a troublemaker, a big troublemaker. And he would come with these difficult questions and ridiculous questions, and also about God. So one time Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia was in the middle of saying Shema Yisrael, and Yashkel came up to him and started bothering him, and he pushed him out of the door with two hands. He said, get out of here. So as soon as he pushed him out with two hands, he said, he went outside and it said he worshipped the stone. And that's how Christianity basically began. So since that time, Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia regretted what he did. It said it should always be Yamin Mekareves of a small docha. It should be that the right hand makes close and the left hand pushes away. And he always regretted it. The fact of the matter is he shouldn't have regretted it. He actually did the right thing, because a person like that is an idolater. It says it has to be kept away. But in our generation, the Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't exactly look at it that way. In other words, to be harsh with somebody, there was someone who came to the Rebbe and gave him a book, a missionary book, and the Rebbe said, he took it and he said, I'm taking this book so that there won't be one less in the world. And the person said to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe, he talked to the Rebbe, said, this is the way, and the Rebbe said, the only reason you're saying those things is because you're sick. And he said, I'm not sick, I feel okay. And the Rebbe said, listen, neither you or I have any idea how sick you are. The Rebbe said that. So it says, Rebbe, nevertheless, you have to try to find something good in every person. And generally speaking, if you try to find something good in another person, you believe there is good, as that brings the good out from the other person. It's called mayim panim lapanim. So the Rebbe says that's the idea of Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia. Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia, he was saying, judge everyone to the merit, side of merit, because of the mistake that he himself made. He was dealing with a person that was very bad. On the other hand, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, when he said, it says Rabbi Gamliel, not Rabbi Gamliel. the Rabbi Gamliel, when he said later on in law number 16, the same thing, Aseh lecha Rav, he said over there, Aseh lecha Rav istalik me'as fekot. He said, make yourself a Rav and get rid of any doubts. And the Rebbe explains that what was he talking about there? Let me just find this over here. Let me see just the language of the Rebbe is better. Here it says, excuse me. The Rebbe Gamliel was talking about a much higher level. Rebbe Gamliel was talking about here. Rebbe Gamliel was talking about a much higher level. He wasn't talking about, when he said Aseh lecha Rav, he was talking about a person. Let me just, I would like to just find, the exact language of the Rebbe. Tonight, by the way, is the birthday of the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe, the fourth Rebbe of Chabad. There it is. I'm sorry, I just simply lost the page here. Here it goes. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Oh. So today is the Rebbe, by the way, the birthday of the Rebbe Marash, that the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, and he was born in Sfirat Omer on Tiferet Shebet Tiferet. That was yesterday what we counted. Tiferet Shebet Tiferet, which shows to do the right thing and the most beautiful thing, and to do it in the most beautiful way. That was the Rebbe Marash. He lived the shortest of any of the Rebbes. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that he loved to learn his Mamorim more than anyone else, more than the others. He was a very big fan. Oh, so he says that which Rabbi Shimon was saying. Oh, there it is. Rabbi Shimon was saying, get rid of any doubts because, excuse me here. Rabbi Shimon, his purpose was not just to deal with bad people, but rather his idea was to elevate himself. And so that there wouldn't be any doubt. So that there wouldn't be any doubts on how to elevate himself properly. So Rabbi Gamliel was talking about a totally different level of Aseh lecha Rav. He was talking about, here it is, here. Yes, but Rabbi Gamliel, he was after the Hillel and Shammai. And because there were a lot of pupils of Talmud Shammai, therefore there was a lot of argument. That's it. There were a lot of arguments. And because there were a lot of arguments, before this, I'm sorry, now I understand. Before Hillel and Shammai, there were basically no arguments in the Torah. Everyone would say their opinion, and everyone's opinion was accepted. When the generations became lower and lower, came to Hillel and Shammai, that was the first argument that was recorded in the Torah. Was an argument about putting your hands on an animal in the Holy Temple, and from that there increased more and more arguments. On one hand, the arguments were not good arguments, but on the other hand, it was the best thing, because by means of the arguments, it became purified and clarified all the laws. And that's why the laws usually like they call the Talmud the Babylonian Talmud, because there's more arguments. There's also the Jerusalem Talmud, but there's less arguments. Things are much straighter, but the more arguments, the better. So therefore, Rabbi Gamliel, he said, you should make yourself a Rav. The reason you should always consult people that are a bit greater than you is in order to get rid of the doubt, that there should not be any doubts. When there are these arguments, you should be clear who you want to choose, which opinion is right. Therefore, it's a totally different thing than what Rabbi Yeshua ben Prachia was talking about. Rabbi Yeshua ben Prachia, he was talking about elevating yourself to the highest levels, the people who are at the highest levels, to make them come closer to you. Not so much to get rid of doubts, but rather to elevate yourself. That's Rabbi Yeshua ben Prachia. From this, we can learn one basic thing, and that's how I want to end up, is the Rebbe said you should look at three things all the time, and you won't come to do a sin. Three things. What are these three things you should look at? God, yourself, and the world. You should look at God and yourself and the world. And that we can say are these three things. Make yourself a Rav, and buy yourself a friend, and judge bad people. Try to find some good in them. Making yourself a Rav is trying to come closer to Hashem, to find out what God wants, to elevate yourself. Make yourself a friend that's dealing with other people. Try to make everybody the same level as you. Judge everyone to the side of good, means even if you see that somebody is not good and he's not proper, nevertheless try to find some redeeming factor in him. And that's what it means. Always keep in mind these three things. Hashem, look at three things and you won't do a sin. God, yourself, and the world. Hashem, yourself and other people, and the world. A person that looks at those three things all the time, keeps them always in mind, it's not just me and God alone and forget about the world. And it's just not me and the world. I'll be a nice person, I'll do it, and I don't have anything to do with God. Or there's some people that say there's just God and the world, and to forget about me. I don't care about myself. You have to have all three. You have to be a human being, deal with other people. You have to be holy, deal with Hashem. And you have to be a kind judge to deal with people that are below you or people that are sinners. By means of this, as we can correct the world, the people that are bad, we can find some good in them and raise them up. The people that are really much better than us, we can learn from them. The people that are equal to us, we can also find brotherhood and love. So, wishing everybody a good week. That's the idea of Pirke Avot, to improve our personality. And hopefully everybody got a little bit of a lesson today on how to improve ourselves in relation to people that are above us, people that are equal to us, and people that are below us. Have a good week, everyone.